Thanks for asking. Better, much better. Okay. So guys, what did we discuss in our last class? Storage classes, right? So do you remember those storage classes? Which is the default storage class? Frequently accessed. Nice. And then we have frequently accessed. Okay, the data which is not frequently accessed. So which storage class is that? IA, right? And then frequently accessed and data not critical, infrequently accessed data not critical. And then we have discussed about the glacier, right? So we have talked a lot about those things yesterday, right? And then is it possible to move the objects from one storage class to another storage class? Yes, using LCM, lifecycle rules. Excellent. So guys, I told you like S3 is having lots of features. Basically, we need to go and learn all these features. And by the way, is it possible to log the buckets, get the bucket logs? Who's accessing the buckets? Yeah. Is it possible to do object logging, object level logging? Where? CloudTrail. Excellent. So what are the two actions that we have it in lifecycle management rule? Transition and expiration. Very good, guys. Okay. So let's jump on to the next. Okay. So today we'll continue this and we have a concept called CORS. What is that? Cross origin resource sharing. What is that? Cross origin resource sharing. Cross origin resource sharing. So, okay, so let's take an example here. Guys, this course is basically mostly we'll get to know for the developers, right? Let's say, for example, we have two buckets here, bucket 1 and then bucket 2. Okay, can you tell me, guys, is it possible to enable static website hosting for the buckets? Yes, possible. Let's, for example, let's say this is the bucket name is CORS BKT1 and this one is CORS BKT2. We have two buckets, CORS bucket 1 and CORS bucket 2. Okay, this is the bucket, and here can I upload index.html and make as a website? Can I access this index.html as a website by enabling static website hosting for this bucket? Yes, definitely possible. So let's take, this is my index. So this index.html is this guy. I'm just accessing from outside. Okay, this from index.html. This is my index.html. So any application you take it, any application you take, this is my index.html and I'm accessing from the browser. Okay, guys, now you tell me, so now I have, can I upload another file called, some example file called load.html also inside the same bucket? And can you tell me, developers, is it possible to call load.html inside this index.html? Can I call load.html inside this index.html? Definitely possible, because yeah, you just, it's an URL. You can call the Java using the JavaScript. Basically, you can call load.html inside this index.html. Okay, nice. So let's say, for example, index.html contains the data call, hey, this is CORS demo something. This is the index.html page, and the load.html contains the data called, as I'm calling this load.html in this index.html, I'll get the same thing like This is load.html page. This is the content. Is it possible to have like this? By accessing this index.html and calling like this? Is it possible to have index.html like this, everyone? Guys, yes, possible, right? Definitely, yes, possible. So the question here is, load.html is in the same bucket. If you are calling any objects within the same bucket, this page is loaded. That meaning the page is visible. Let's say you have puppy.jpg. Here you have another file called puppy.jpg. So I can also call this puppy.jpg in my index.html, possible. So as the objects are in the same origin meaning place, the same place. As the objects are in the same origin, I can access everything in my index.html. Let's say, for example, here, I have load.html here in another bucket. Whenever I call this load.html inside this index.html, will this work? In general, should work. In general, it should work. But here in bucket concept, it doesn't work. Because why? These two are two different origins. These two are different origins. These two are different origins, guys. So if you want to access the object which is in another bucket, by default you cannot access it. So for this purpose, you need to enable chords in this bucket. Chords is some JSON script, or you can have some XML script. You need to put JSON script in this bucket so that these objects are now able to be called in the another origin. So these objects, these resources can be shared across origin. That is why it is called cross origin resource sharing. So if you want to share the objects across the regions, by default, it doesn't work unless you enable the chords here in this bucket. You understood, guys? Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear, guys? Yes, we have the chords. So there will be a chords option where you can go and enable and put this JSON script over there. And then now it is allowed across the domain. I'll show you the demo also, don't worry. But do you understand the concept, basically? The concept here is to share the resources across origins. That is the concept. Nice. Okay. And the another feature what we have it here is CRR, cross region replication. What is that? Cross region replication. And also we have something called SRR. SRR meaning same region replication. Let's see what is cross region replication. Let's say, for example, you have a bucket here. Okay. Let's say this bucket is in Mumbai region. The bucket is in Mumbai region. Okay. And I am uploading some objects inside this bucket. Right. I'm uploading some objects inside this bucket. Let's say, for example, anything. Example, hello.txt file, something. And you have some objects also here. Now you tell me here, and there is a guy who is accessing these files all the way from Tokyo region. Can you tell me, guys, he is accessing all the way from Tokyo region. For him, he will be having high latency or low latency to access these objects, which is in Mumbai. Definitely there will be a high latency. Definitely there will be a high latency. Now this Tokyo guy will say that, hey, your objects which I'm accessing here, it's loading low, it's not loading, or it's very, we have a very high latency here, right? Can we do something over here? So for this kind of purpose, you can create another bucket in Tokyo region, right, guys? You can create another bucket in Tokyo region. Now you can have something called CRR, cross region replication rule can be created. So what this does is, this is CRR. This does the replication. This does the replication. So that meaning, guys, if you upload here, yeah, if you upload any data over here, let's say, guys, you need to create a CRR rule here. You create a CRR rule saying that, hey, whatever the data I'm putting over here should be automatically copied to this particular bucket. That bucket can be in any region. That can be a Tokyo region. That can be any other region, right? So create a rule. And after that, whatever the data that you have uploaded, let's say puppy.jpg or anything, or index.html, whatever the objects that you are uploaded, after the CRR rule got created, this will be copied or replicated to another bucket which you have mentioned. And now this guy, Tokyo guy, will be accessing all his objects from this bucket instead of going to your Mumbai bucket here. This is called cross-region replication. What is this called? Cross-region replication. So if the bucket is in the same region, both the buckets are in the same region, that is called SRR, same region replication. Guys, there might be a requirement that two buckets will be should be synchronized or should be replicated each other. In that case, we can use the concept called CRR. Guys, can you tell me here, hello.txt will be replicated? Hello.txt will not be replicated because existing data is not replicated. So whatever the data you have uploaded after the rule got created, those objects will be replicated. Existing objects will not be replicated. You understood, guys? Cross-region replication. Everyone? So keep this in mind. CRR is not enabled by default. CRR is not enabled by default, guys. No. And also, CRR is enabled on bucket level. CRR is enabled on the bucket level. Yeah, you need to copy it manually. So that's the reason is here, whatever the data you have whatever the object you have uploaded after the rule got created, that will be there. But if you feel that this should be replicated, you create the rule at the time of creating the bucket itself. Create the rule first and then try to upload all the objects. Then it will be replicated. Okay. Nice. Yeah. And this is the certification question. So the certification question here is, objects will be replicated only after creating CRR rule. Existing objects are not replicated. What you need to do? Copy it manually. You need to copy it manually, guys. And also, to make this CRR work, versioning is mandatory. Without versioning, CRR is not there. Versioning is mandatory to have CRR. Here, guys. And another wonderful thing here is, CRR can be done across region and across account as well. So you can do the replication in the different account also completely. That is also possible. In the same region, you can do it on the CRR, not CRR. So replication you can do in the different regions, same region, different regions, same regions, and across accounts as well. Guys, is this clear on the CRR? Everyone? Any questions? Nice. Okay. The another topic what we have it here is encryption. What's that, guys? Encryption. Encryption. What is encryption in general? Why do we use encryption? Yeah, in order to have a good security, we need to secure our data, we need to do the encryption. Guys, in general, I'm not talking about S3. In general, encryption, yeah, encryptions can be done in two ways. Encryption can be done in two ways. Number one is, we call it as in-transit encryption. And another one is, we call it as data at rest encryption. What is in-transit meaning? In general, guys, in-transit. In-transit meaning. Did you heard about the word called in-transit somewhere? Yeah. So in-transit meaning on the way, right? In-transiting meaning under progress or on the way, in progress and all. So guys, so when the data is flowing, so encryption while data is moving. So when will be the data is moving? If you guys on the website using HTTPS protocol, right? The HTTPS protocol, what is HTTPS does? It will take the data to and fro from the client to the server, right? So in that case, the data is in transit, right? So if you're doing encryption while data is moving, that is called in transit. How do you do that? Using HTTPS. Using HTTPS. Encryption while data is moving. How do in-transit encryptions can be done using HTTPS? We all know that HTTPS is for for security purpose, secure data, transferring the data securely on the web. There is another guy called data at rest. So can you tell me, guys, in EC2, where will be the data at rest? Where will be the data at rest? Where will be the data is sitting just like that? Where is that? On the storage. In EC2 meaning storage meaning, yes, Suraj, very good. Volumes, right? On volumes. Do you remember that can we encrypt the volumes? Remember while we are creating volumes, there is option to encrypt the data, encrypt the volume, right? Yeah. When you encrypt the volume, that is called data at rest. What that? Data at rest. So encryption while data is at rest is called data at rest simply. For example, here I could put a like volumes like S3, etc. So whenever the data is sitting there and you're on top of it, you're encrypting it, that is called data at rest. Got this, guys? Do you understand this in-transit and data at rest? Do you understand in-transit HTTPS certificates? Guys, generally, where do you get these HTTPS certificates? Generally, where do you get these HTTPS certificates, guys? GoDaddy, right? Basically, we need to go and purchase. This in GoDaddy. But here, remember, guys, you don't need to go here, GoDaddy or somewhere. there is a AWS service called Certificate Manager. What is that? Certificate Manager. So there is a service called Certificate Manager where you can generate or you can purchase HTTPS certificates in AWS itself. You don't need to go to any external third party like GoDaddy and all, right? So which is the service where you can go and generate the HTTPS certificates? Certificates. Like if someone is talking about SSL, TLS, HTTPS, all are same. All are same. Guys, which is the service in AWS you can go and generate the certificates? Which service is that? Guys, you there? Certificate Manager. What is that? Certificate Manager. Very important. Yeah. Hey, is this clear till here, everyone? Everyone? CC till here? Nice. So encryption are done can be done in two ways. Number one is in-transit encryption, and number two is data at rest encryption. Okay, and then in-transit meaning how do you get HTTPS certificates? Using Certificate Manager. Okay, let us come on AWS part, how we can do the encryption on the objects. So Amazon S3 has, guys, 3 types of encryptions. Amazon S3 has 3 types of encryptions. In S3, I'm talking about S3. In S3, we have 3 types of encryptions. Number one, we call it as server-side encryption. In shortcut, we call it as SSE, right? And then we call it as client-side encryption. And then another one, we have something called in-transit encryption. Guys, we know very well in-transit encryption can be done using HTTPS certificates. And then client-side encryption. Guys, whatever the data you're getting on S3 can be encrypted. But how about request traveling from your company to AWS? Who is responsible for that kind of encryption? Company, your customer, or AWS? The request which is coming from your company to AWS. Who is responsible for that? You have your company here and you have your AWS here. Whatever the data you have it here is handled by and encrypt it, whatever you have it here. But from the data which is coming from here to here should be taken care by whom? Customer only, right? This is what I was talking about. So this is called client-side encryption. Client-side encryption will be handled by the customer. Should be handled by customer. Handled by customer. Okay, so these two are common. So now let us talk about server-side encryption, SSE. So there are here also we have 3 types of encryptions inside this. We call it as SSE S3, SSE KMS, SSE C. Thus, we have 3 types of encryption in server-side encryption here. We have 3 types of encryption. SSE S3 meaning, guys, remember, now you tell me, whenever we are encrypting volume, there will be a default key available, right, in the drop down for encrypting it. Did you saw that? You saw that? There will be a default key all the time, right? You can select the default one all the time. Yes. Yes, right. So for everything there will be the service, like from EBS you have a EBS default key. In S3 S3 has a default key which is completely managed by S3 itself. So you have something called AWS. This is AWS managed key. There is a key called SSC S3, guys, which is AWS managed key. And if you want to have your own keys, then go for AWS KMS key. Guys, where are the keys stored? All your encryption keys are stored in which service? KMS, key management service, right? And if you want to, if you want to use the customer provided keys, go and use this customer provided key. So most of the time, the default key is always SSC S3 key, which is a default key managed by AWS. If you want to have your own key, go and create a key in KMS and use that. And if customer is giving the key, get that and then use it in the encryption for your objects. And for all this, guys, for all this encryptions, S3 uses an algorithm called AES 256. Certification question. AES 256, Advanced Encryption Standard. What is the full form? Advanced Encryption Standard. Advanced Encryption Standard. AES 256. Guys, is this clear? On the encryption part. So which is the default encryption that we use in S3? SSC S3. Excellent. Very nice. Okay, so now as we are talking about here, we need to also talk about something called S3 consistency models. What's that? S3 data consistency model. Basically, there are two types. S3 data consistency models, guys. We know this already, but yeah, let's see here again. Let's say, for example, you have your bucket. For example, we have a bucket here. Guys, tell me here, this is the bucket. See, without writing anything, can you read it? Yes or no? Without writing, can you read it? Definitely no, no. So here, first what I need to do, first I need to write it like in a Amita dot JPG. First I need to write it, then only I can read it. Yes or no? Yeah, nice. So can I say read after write consistency? Read after write. So that is the first consistency model what we have it. We call it as read after write. Guys, uploading one object meaning, can I call it as put? Put. Yes, putting meaning what? CURD operation. Put meaning what? Uploading it. Okay, now what I do is read after write consistency for puts of new objects. Do you agree? Yes. Read after write consistency for puts of new objects, guys. So whenever you put a new object, immediately you can read it. This is the meaning. This is the meaning. Let's say, for example, I have put something called index.html. After writing only I can read it. That is the meaning here. Read after write consistency for puts of new objects. Now let's say, for example, I have a data called here index.html ABC. I can read it immediately. Guys, now I have updated to DEF. I have updated to DEF. So whenever I try to access index.html, sometimes I might get the old data. Guys, for a fraction of seconds, I might get the old data. Then if I refresh it, then I'll get the new data. That meaning it will take little time to get updated. You'll not, even you don't feel it, but AWS is saying us, guys, whenever you are updating it, guys, whenever you're updating it or deleting it, whenever you're overwriting it, guys, whenever overwriting on your puts, whenever you are overwriting on your puts, that will take little bit time to get modified to read it basically. And let's say, for example, you have deleted index.html, and from console you can still able to access it. Array, and if you refresh it, and then it's gone. It will take little bit time to get it impacted over here. So that is our second consistency model, which we call it as eventual consistency for overwrite of puts and deletes. Guys, pakka certification question. Pakka certification question. So there are two consistency models. This is not only for S3, right? It is throughout the AWS. So read after write consistency for puts of new objects, and then eventually meaning what? Slowly. So eventually consistency, if you are overwriting the puts and you're deleting it, eventually it will be updating on the user side. Do you understand? Is this clear on the data consistency model? Nice. Nice. Okay. So, Shino, see here. Whenever you puts, what is the put meaning? Uploading, right? So after putting only, na, you will be reading it. That is called read after write. First you write it. What is another name for writing it? Puts, right? So read after write of puts of new objects. Guys, you cannot even change these wordings, because in certifications they will be changing as deletes or updates and all. No, you should not change it. This is pakka certification question. Just remember like this only. First one is immediately after writing it, immediately you can read it. Yeah, no lag. Second one is if you are overwriting something or if you're deleting something, it will take some time to replicate, to some time to for the user to get it, the latest one. But that's, yeah, nice. Okay. And there is an interesting thing called, guys, pre-signed URLs. What is that? Pre-signed URLs. Pre-signed URLs is something very interesting, guys. See here. So let's say you have a bucket. Inside the bucket, let's say you have an object called some movie. Give me one movie. Movie name. Whatever. Alvina. Bahua. Okay, whatever. Whatever it is. Let's say this got released, yeah, like now which is not released. Let's say, for example, there is a nice movie, not released movie, some, what is that? Jati Tatnalu, eh? Jati Ratnalu. Okay. Interesting. Whatever. So basically, okay, you have some data, you have some object, yeah, you have some object, right? And this object, just a second. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so let's say you don't want to give this access to everyone, and you want to release you want to release it like a premier release, right? You want to do a premier release. So now what you can do is, if you give access to this bucket, guys, if you give access to this bucket, everyone can access this unlimitedly. What we can do is, you know very well that for every object we have something called endpoint, right? We have endpoint for every object. So this endpoint you can give access temporarily for a certain period of time. You can do a pre-signed URL where the link is valid only for certain time. So the endpoint is valid. Endpoint is valid for certain period of time, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever time you need. After that, it will be expired. So this is called pre-signed URL. Instead of giving access to everyone, so you can generate a pre-signed URL, and it will be generated automatically, and give the URL to your friends, and then they will be accessing it, and this will be valid only for this particular time. After that, they cannot access the object because it is expired. Guys, you got this? Guys, you understood? Excellent. So these are the main topics. These are the main topics for on S3 basically. So in lab, what we can do is there will be some small features will come up where we'll be discussing over there. But remember, guys, so buckets can be restricted. By default, buckets are public or private. Private. So you can still give access to, guys, like this, like, you can still give access. So some buckets can be accessed for someone and some buckets cannot be accessed for someone. Like this, we can have something, we can write some, you remember IAM policies, the same way you have the bucket policies also, IAM policy also, where you can go and restrict the object or the entire buckets there. And also we have something called requester pace. Requester pace, guys, requester space meaning uh, requester, let's say you have an object here, some movie dot mpv4, some movie here, and if you want to access that, first you need to pay and then access that object, even though I'm the owner, right? Like, Amazon Prime Video or whatever you have it, right? If you want to access a video, you need to pay and then access it, right? The same way. So here also you can have this concept like in S3. So the requester should pay in order to access objects. You can also do this. That is called requester pace. That's called requester pace. Nice. So guys, so that is all. We have it on S3. So what we do is, should we do freshly lab tomorrow? What do you say? Okay, let's go with your words then. Take a photo. Okay. And then this. Nice. Okay, great. So guys, please go through on what we have discussed on the S3 from day one. Like tomorrow, I'll just ask you the shootout round on what we have discussed on S3, and then we'll start doing practicals on S3 starting tomorrow. Okay. So guys, can you give me the final CC for today? Excellent. So guys, that is all for today, and I'll see you tomorrow with the next topic. Until then, take care. Bye bye. Have a nice day. Good night.